Welcome to another episode of the Bandage Podcast, a weekly wrap-up of the most trending healthcare news. Each week, join me and my co-host Alex Ross as we'll discuss the latest in healthcare, health IT, and compliance. In this week's episode, we discuss a new MRI technology, employee health and wellness, a school district mental health grant, and a nasal decongestion. Let's wrap things up. This is episode 26 for the week of March 30th. I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And I'm Alex Ross.
Before we get started, our diagnosis code of the week is T63.443, toxic effect of venom of bees assault.
You know, interestingly enough, as odd as this may sound, that's actually happened to me.
Has it?
Yes.
Has it?
Yes, especially the assault bee portion. Really, beekeepers are usually some of the nicest people that you'll ever meet. But there was one that I did meet that was not particularly kind. This particular beekeeper had kind of a temper. And so when I told them that their honey kind of tasted like corn syrup, they got really upset with me. And they grabbed a handful of bees and just threw it at me. And of course, the bees are not very happy to be thrown. So I got a few stingers in my face, and my face was diagnosed with basically this toxic effect.
Yes.
Because of the venom of the bees.
Not only was the bee toxic, or not only was the venom of the bees toxic, but so was the human being. He was a toxic human being as well.
Absolutely. Well, I was being kind of mean too, so I'll take some responsibility for that. But after this, you should have seen me. I look like a bobblehead because all of me just swelled up so big.
With it, let's get right into the news. First up, we have speeding up scans. The FDA has cleared the compressed speeder technology from Canon Medical Systems. This technology speeds up MRI, which is also known as a magnetic resonance imaging scan times. Compressed speeder reconstructs full resolution images from undersampled data through iterative reconstruction. The tool supports image acceleration and can help avoid unfolding error artifacts that are sometimes seen with standard parallel imaging. Reduced scan times enhance patient comfort, which can enable higher quality images by reducing patient movement caused by discomfort during long scans. There's a lot of complex words in this, but essentially they're just making MRIs faster and as accurate as the current MRI machines are.
Right. When you think of Canon, you think of probably a printer, but also a digital camera. And they're getting involved similarly with medical cameras, if you will, you know, taking pictures of a medical patient using different technology than, of course, your regular camera. But still, that technology is advancing, and that's kind of cool that basically they're making it more accurate. They're making it easier and faster, and I see this as being a good thing for both patients and doctors.
Yeah, definitely. If you've ever been in an MRI, which I have not, but I've heard that they take a very long time, and it's kind of claustrophobic because you're just encased in this circular machine that's making noise, and then the doctors are on the microphone in the back. It's almost like a studio, but you're just laying in this machine. It's like, hey, how you doing over there, from the overhead speaker? So it's kind of weird.
Yeah. I've seen movies before. I know what an MRI looks like.
Right?
And it's just loud and makes a lot of noise. That's what they need to work on, making MRIs quieter.
Exactly.
Next up, work on wellness to improve your business. A Career Builder survey found that 61% of employees are burned out on their current job. Employees and employers are realizing and accepting that a 24/7 approach to work is unhealthy. Putting too much pressure on people reduces productivity. Overworked employees are absent more due to sickness, are mentally checked out, or make more mistakes. When people are under too much pressure for too long, they start to look elsewhere for jobs. But employee wellness programs have both business and team benefits. Businesses with wellness programs can earn a financial and cultural benefit. Employees are happier, more productive, and stay longer. Some programs that many employees are offering include access to online health apps, gym memberships, weekly massages, and treadmill desks.
So I was thinking about this yesterday, but this is kind of a sidetrack, but it's kind of related because it also has to do with burnout and employees. I think that after this whole coronavirus thing blows over and people start going back to work, it's going to be interesting to see how many people are like, okay, I need to go on a vacation and just request off, because that time of like, no one's going to request vacation if they're still working right now because there's nothing you can do. You're just sitting at home.
Right.
But afterwards, the window is going to be smaller. So there's going to be more people requesting off in a smaller amount of time. So I'm curious as to like how that's going to play out. But it's kind of a side note, but it is still an interesting point.
Well, if they haven't used up all of their vacation time.
Yeah, I know. It'll just be interesting if the employers allow that.
Right. So I think about wellness in this context and providing, little benefits like gym memberships or standing desks, things like that. Those are nice things for employees to have. And don't get me wrong, I have a standing desk and I absolutely love it. It's great, but it's not the standing desk that makes me stay. The reason I stay is because I've got a supportive team, because I've got a manager that wants to see me succeed. Like, those are the reasons that people are going to stay. So I don't want this story to give you this idea that, oh, you can just, create the best business culture by giving your team material things, because I don't think that's true. But thinking about the kind of things that your team would actually find useful, things that would help them, that is the thing that's going to make them stay.
Well, and I also think it depends on your demographic. I mean, stand-up desks is one little measly thing. And like same with like getting like nicer coffee. Like that's just one little aspect. But if you add all these things together and bundle them together, I think it's something that would be like, okay, why would I leave this company over this other place? I mean, sure, they pay me a couple grand more per year, but I mean, I get that in benefits and more, and I use all of those, right? I mean, not everyone's going to use a gym membership or a weekly massage, but those people who do are more likely to stay at that current job, I feel like.
I don't see myself staying because, I've got a gym membership here. I see myself staying because I've got a gym membership and I've got a boss who actually cares about me. It's definitely
like 2 and 2. You can't just have one and the other.
Right.
You can't just cover up this terrible manager with a gym membership.
Right. Exactly. You can't like patch holes using this, but it is still a great thing that it can be helpful to your employees. So balance that. You got to provide kind of a well-rounded, holistic approach to wellness of your employees.
Yep. Next up, we have granting students better mental health. The Ironwood Area Schools of Michigan has received a grant that will allow additional mental health services to students. The grant allows the district to place a fully funded mental health professional on the campus to provide evidence-based behavioral and social-emotional support for most at-risk students. The district currently has a mental health therapist on campus, but the need is more than what one person can manage. The grant will also be used for activities centered around positive behavior and support systems, which the district plans to implement in the fall. Another big push by schools for mental health, which is always a good thing. I think a lot of these things are going to keep popping up, and it's going to get to a point where you're going to hear people be like, well, back in my day, we didn't have to do mental health programs in school, blah, 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 trying to be like, I'm better than you because I didn't take care of my mental health. But that's not necessarily the case. Right. I mean, we're in a world right now where students they need help. And kind of evidence of that is the mass shootings and stuff going on in schools. Like if these students had mental health programs and evaluated their mental health and helped them get through hardships, I imagine a lot of these could have been prevented. So it's definitely a good thing.
Right. I mean, back in my day, we had what was called a guidance counselor, and that was really the extent of the mental health services that we could access at school. So we had our school nurse, which could give you a Band-Aid or maybe a pack of ice. And then we had our guidance counselor who could give you a Band-Aid or a pack of ice mentally, right?
Yeah,
I think they really weren't suited for providing treatment for anything. And it seems like they're kind of getting farther along than that now. A fully funded mental health professional, an actual therapist who could potentially provide help to someone, or at least actually refer them to another service provider who would do that for you. You know, because obviously the school nurse, if you get really hurt, they can refer you to the hospital, which is, you know, pretty obvious. But if you go to your guidance counselor and you're saying, man, I'm having a terrible time, and they're like, okay, you need to get some more help. Okay, well, where do I go?
Yeah. I also
don't
think
know.
a lot of
Pick
times guidance counselors kind of get roped into like student advisor roles as well, where they're selecting the schedule of the students, and they're like, hey, like you should take this or this class with this teacher because I think you'd be a good match for her. Or conversely, like when you're a senior, it's like, okay, this college is interested in evaluating you, and there's a bunch of scholarships you could do there. So that's kind of like 3 jobs in one, right? Like you're the therapist, you're also helping them recommend people to therapy, like, and then on top of that, you're guiding them through college and high school. Like that's a lot on your plate, and I think it's kind of ineffective. So hopefully these kind of ease the load for the guidance counselor so they can focus more on the student advisor side. And then the people who are the therapists can actually focus on the therapy side.
Right. The mental health nurse.
Yes, exactly.
No, but I do see it as being a pretty beneficial position. And I guess after we see what happens at this school, maybe other schools will start to follow suit.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, news for your nose. Nasal congestion affects approximately 20% of the population and is associated with difficulty sleeping, reduced daytime performance, and increased need for healthcare. The financial impact of chronic congestion is estimated at more than $5 billion to $10 billion annually. Current treatment are drugs through nasal sprays, pills, or nasal irrigators, each having its own side effects and risks. But scientists are coming up with a new and better way to deal with the problem. Sinusonic is the patent-pending device that uses a combination of gentle acoustic vibrations and light resistant pressure to help open nasal breathing and relieve nasal congestion naturally in as little as 3 minutes.
Yeah, so nasal congestion, huh? Pretty big deal.
I'm glad to see that we are tackling the issues that are really plaguing us, like how do we decongest our nasal cavities?
How do I stop my sniffles? Apparently, it's
no. I joke
to
because
$10
I know
billion annually.
Obviously, I'm joking. I know that there are people who have a bigger problem with nasal congestion than I do. Okay, my nose is not too bad, so I can't complain, and therefore I feel like I can make jokes about it. But if you are one of those people who's looking for relief that is not in a pharmaceutical way, or is, running water through your nose, this is kind of a potentially exciting little device that is going to help improve your quality of life.
Right. Definitely awesome. The more you knows.
Now, it does say gentle acoustic vibrations, and I guess my question is, what song is it playing?
It's playing the acoustic version of Can't Touch This.
Blow, blow, blow your nose gently.
And with that, let's get on to our next segment. BREACH, Breach Patrol. It's a breach! All of the latest cybersecurity breaches. Welcome to Breach Patrol, where we talk about the latest healthcare and cybersecurity breaches all across the entire world. First up, we have, like a breached whale, Norwegian cruise line hit by cyber harpoon. British security firm Dynarisk said that a Norwegian cruise line, also known as NCL, suffered a data breach, exposing email addresses and passwords of nearly 27,000 travel agents. Dynarisk researchers found a breached database from the NCL agents portal on a hacking forum on March 13th. NCL shut down the compromised website, which had no affiliation or connection to their broader network systems or databases. NCL asked affected travel partners to change their password for the site and any site which they use the same password for. They advised agents to be cautious of any suspicious activity or emails. The company said this appeared to be an isolated incident, only involving a regional travel partner portal. It didn't include guests, employees, or payment data.
What a time for the cruise lines to be facing some kind of security breach.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before. I mean, and it's this time of, I mean, where we're at right now in life with this whole coronavirus thing is a lot of cybersecurity people are taking advantage of this. I mean, by cybersecurity criminals, I mean criminals. They're taking advantage of the fact that a lot of companies aren't focused on the security of their websites, of their people, of their systems, their users, anything like that, and they're just trying to attack them in any way possible.
Right. I see them as being very vulnerable at this time. And I think we talked about previously cruise lines and cruise ships being one of those industries that we're going to see only the strong survive here, and end up with just a couple instead of, however many we have today, based on who can weather this storm best. And this is not one way to do it, right? By exposing data of your travel agents during this time where they probably are having a hard time finding customers as well.
Yeah, they're definitely probably, I mean, this industry is struggling across the board, including the travel agents. So can't imagine that things are looking good for Norwegian Cruise Line. So we'll see what happens at the end of it. But this just goes to show you as well that you need to use different passwords for different websites.
Right.
Because I'm sure that there's many of the users that had the same password across multiple websites and services. Now all of those are considered to be breached as well. So they need to go through all of the thousands of different usernames and passwords. So it's a very, very frustrating process.
Mm-hmm. And finally, way to go, Weibo. Weibo, one of China's biggest social media platforms, suffered a breach exposing over 538 million users' information onto the dark web. The database that the hackers put on the dark web contains personal information including names, Weibo IDs, number of posts, number of followers, gender, location, and contact numbers for nearly 172 million of those affected. Some reporters say that hackers were able to breach the platform sometime during the middle of 2019. Weibo acknowledged the leak, but downplayed the incident, and experts who are following the issue suggest that there are irregularities in the statement issued by Weibo. But the company announced it made a police complaint against the data theft, and relevant authorities were notified. Weibo advises users not to use similar passwords for different platforms. This is an interesting reaction, especially compared with a lot of the other breaches we see. Their statement is, change your password.
Yeah, right. It's there's a lot of weird things going on with China in general, between not releasing information about the coronavirus outbreak and now a Weibo social media platform not releasing or kind of downplaying this social media breach. It's just like, guys, we know that you're lying. We're calling you out. Just move on. Admit to your mistake, and then you'll end up being a better company in the end, right? It's just like, I don't really understand why they're doing something like this. Obviously, I mean, 538 million users is something that's not to be like reckoned with. I mean, it's like if all of those users decide not to use your service, I mean, where are you in terms of the social media platform industry, right? I mean, you're probably losing out on billions of ad revenue, billions of, just activity in general. So why wouldn't you just take care of your audience? It doesn't make sense to me. Right.
So for context, though, Weibo is huge. I mean, It is, I believe at one point, the biggest social platform in China.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like a small website. And it's something, from what I can tell, it seems to be similar to a lot of our social apps that we use. A place to put information and statuses and things like that. The way Google refers to it as a micro blog. So not, long articles, but rather short updates. So this is pretty massive, and I'm hoping that it doesn't end up too bad. But it, obviously was a very large breach and had the potential to really cause a lot of damage here.
Yeah, good luck to all those users.
And that's it for this week's wrap-up of your weekly healthcare news. I'm Alex Ross.
And I'm Matt Moneypenny.
And we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of The Bandage. This week's episode was written and produced by eTactics. eTactics is a leading revenue cycle solutions organization committed to providing innovative, web-based solutions that improve our clients' cash management and customer relationships. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.